Hello and welcome to the Movie Attic. I'm Mike, and as I've said before, this is the attic where I discuss and review movies, DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4Ks for all the nice people out there in YouTube land. If you notice anything different, I might be a little clearer and there's no blue haze. I got a new camera, and I know that's bad news for all of you because then you'll be able to see me clearer, and bad news for me because I'll probably have to get a makeup artist. But as I always say, that's not why you wrote or why you're on the phone or why you're here. Today's big movie is The Last Dinosaur from 1977. Of course, I have the sheet of paper with some stats. Like I say, it's from 1977. It's in the 1:7:8 to 1 aspect ratio, in color, of course. It's this version's 106 minutes. There was a US version years ago that was the 92-minute version. It's a Japanese-American co-production, which there's been many through the years. It's starring Richard Boone, Joan Van Ark, Stephen Keats and Luther Rackley. The story of this movie and me go back to probably its beginnings in 1977. It was supposed to be a theatrical release. Something happened that I don't think anybody picked it up to release it. So it ended up being like a TV movie, which I don't mind TV movies. And even today, the big question is on some of these movies being released, is this really a theatrical type movie, or is this more of a streaming movie? And I think this probably falls in that category. It was shot in Japan. I don't think I showed the back or anything. I guess I could flip it around. It's just a single DVD, and more importantly, a DVD-R. I got that on Amazon years ago. It was a where they make them on demand for you. And it's as you probably saw, it's a Warner Archive deal. But my history with this movie, like I say, I saw it as a kid. In 1977, I would have been 8 years old. And of course, like I've said before, I love dinosaurs and Godzilla, and all that stuff was awesome growing up, watching. Then years later, I didn't know what the name of this movie was, and I'm trying to find it. I don't know any information about it other than some scenes that I remember, like the scene of the dinosaur coming down this path that's kind of cleared out like a trail, and this giant catapult, and of course the vehicle that takes them there is shaped like a bullet. It's like a drill of some kind, a laser drill to be exact. So I kept typing this into the computer, and this was probably 20 years ago, and I ended up buying Journey to the Center of the Earth, and the Land That Time Forgot, and The People That Time Forgot. And I'd start watching these movies like, nope, that ain't it. Then finally I came across this, and then I bought it. So the mystery was solved. The movie, the story, I guess you could say, of this movie is, and I know everybody loves these retelling of what the movie's about. Richard Boone's character, his name is Maston Thrust. I know, wonderful name. He's like a big game hunter, billionaire, and oil drilling tycoon, I guess could best describe him. The movie opens with him on I think it's a private jet or a jet of some kind. I originally thought this was a house because it looked like there was a fireplace. Like I say, he's a big game hunter, so all these mounted heads were on the wall in his jet. And it wasn't until they zoomed out and I saw the jet. And then there's certain scenes you can see the windows along the side of the jet. And it just struck me as so odd. And I'd seen a video somebody else made, and they said, yeah, there's no exhaust for that fireplace. So I was hoping it was a short flight, because otherwise it would be a short flight. So he's got this woman in there, and he kind of wanders off and into another room, and she's looking through like a photo album of his accomplishments and all this stuff. So they land, and he kind of discards her like yesterday's newspaper. He's like, here's a silver bullet, and here's like a plane ticket to wherever you came from. He didn't even know where she came from. So, not that that's the way every billionaire is. They just discard people like they're nothing. But you can see where some people, it fits in the motif of he's not only a big game hunter, he's a small game hunter too. So, like I say, he's got this drilling company. The drilling company, he was on his way to a press conference, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. He's going to this press conference because this one drilling, they're called, what are they called? The polar borer, because they're like drilling under the polar ice caps for oil. These things are manned drills, laser drills. So this original crew had set out and came up on land where there was dinosaurs. All the members got off except for one. They got killed by the dinosaur. This one guy at the press conference is the only one that came back alive. So that's when he announces that he's, massed and thrust. He himself is going to go on an expedition to find this dinosaur because, he's a big game hunter. Even though he promises the one main scientist that, no, we're not going there to hunt him. This is purely scientific. Everybody in the back of their mind's like, yeah, he's just going there to hunt this dinosaur. Because what bigger trophy could you get? So it's this mast and thrust guy, Stephen Keats' character, the one that survived the first drilling expedition. Then Joan Van Ark, she plays Francesca, who's a photographer. She goes along. The scientist goes along. And this guide that Mr. Thrust takes with him seemingly everywhere on his expeditions, Luther Rackley plays, is Bunta. So those are all the people that are going along on this trip. Of course, they go on this trip. They come up in this land. And right away, early in this expedition, you can tell that the name, the Last Dinosaur, is very misleading. There's pterodactyls flying overhead, which I don't know if they're considered dinosaurs, but I consider them dinosaurs, and they might not even be called pterodactyls anymore. Then they initially encounter, I think, what was a dinosaur. So there's another one. And then eventually they run into the T-Rex, who is the last dinosaur. And eventually they get out, they're all away from this craft that took them there, this polar drill. And the T-Rex ends up picking it up and taking it to this boneyard. While he's there, he gets in a fight with a Tyrannosaurus, I believe. So there's at least 5 dinosaurs if you count the birds, you know. And any logical thinking person, too, would be like, surely there's not a grown-up dinosaur of these different species, and there's none other, you know, without exploring the whole place, there's none other on that whole, whatever you want to call this place. So that part of it's kind of misleading that there was only one dinosaur, because I don't think that's true at all. And then, like a common trope in some of these movies, there's like the cavemen who are fighting against the, I don't even know what you would call it, the regular people. One of them breaks away, this female cave woman. Then she's kind of with these explorers, and they teach her how to do, you know, different things. And so the guy that survived the first exploration, he ends up finding their, I don't even know what you call this thing, the drill that gets them back to their home. And he's like, hey, we can go back, because they were afraid they were trapped there forever, because there was strict orders that if they didn't hear from them within such and such a time, that the pack up everything and leave, and there would be no more explorations. So he finds this transportation route back to the homeland, but this Thrust character is heck bent on killing this dinosaur at this point, because he'd already killed the professor, and ends up killing Bunta as well, which I don't think he ever found out before everybody was leaving. So, long story even longer, he makes this catapult, and that's where I said where the dinosaur comes up this path. He launches this big rock and bounces it off his head. It doesn't kill the dinosaur. And, you know, this Joan Van Ark character and the Richard Boone character, plus this guy that survived the first exploration, it's kind of a love triangle of sorts. She's begging Mast and Thrust to come back with them. He ends up staying in this land, and the movie pretty much ends with them leaving. And you see Mast and Thrust by himself. So there you have it. There's the movie in a nutshell. If you could understand any of that gibberish. So, like I said, I like this movie because it was very nostalgic for me. I don't know how many times I've seen it on TV. And the dinosaurs didn't look bad. Like I say, it's a Japanese-American co-production. It was made by Rankin and Bass. If you know them, they made the Rudolph, you know, the Red-Nosed Reindeer and all those holiday specials, stop motion that we loved. Even those, the puppets and everything back then were made in Japan. And then I think the voice actors and all that was people from Canada. So there's Rankin and Bass always had a collage of like different people that were involved in the making of their stuff. There's a theme song called The Last Dinosaur, sang by Nancy Wilson, which who'd have thought? And then the music was written by the same guy that wrote all those happy tunes, you know, for the holiday special. I think his last name was Laws. So, yeah, there you have it. I will say the only part that really, I don't want to say it bothered me, but it was very cringe. The Joan Van Ark character and the Richard Boone character share at least one, maybe even two kisses. And if my calculations are right, I don't know if I have the perfect stats here. He was like 60 years old at the time, and she was like 34. So, and he might have been something to look at when he was younger, but he was kind of rough looking, like I am, even rougher with this new camera. So to see them kissing was one of those look away moments. And that was the only bad part in my book, in the movie. I thought it looked really well. It had common tropes of these type of movies. Actually, a lot of this movie reminded me of Moby Dick because, this Thrust character was obsessed with this dinosaur to where he was willing to risk his life. He was willing to risk, everybody that was with him, their lives as well. It didn't end the way Moby Dick ended, but it kind of reminded me of that. Somebody's so obsessed with getting this beast or this animal that, everything else flew out the window. And so, like I said, it's very nostalgic for me. So if I was to rate this movie, which I guess I'm here for, and like I said, these ratings don't mean anything. If you like something, it's a 10. If you don't, it's a 0 or a 1 if you count 0. So I will give it 6.5 rolls of pink insulation out of 10. It was very nostalgic for me to watch it again, and I watched it again, of course, for this episode. But if you have, you have this movie, or you've seen this movie, I think it's actually on YouTube here. I didn't check out the video quality of it, but I'm sure it's free to watch because I don't know anybody that would pay to see this. I thought the dinosaurs looked really good. Maybe not the best. The special effects weren't terrible. So, like I say, if you've seen this or you like dinosaurs or you have a suggestion for other movies of this caliber or even better, leave a comment down in the comments section below. As I always say, I'd love to discuss it. So until next time I'm in the attic with a completely different movie, probably not a dinosaur movie. And I know you're thinking, thank goodness, especially if it's a B movie. So thanks so much for watching, and I guess I'll see you then. Bye.